Hello everyone and welcome to another video from Earth.tech channel. In this tutorial we're gonna be building the sign-in page. You can see here. This template actually is coming from the Material UI official website, which I'll put the link in the description below for you guys. There are like 9 free templates as you can see here. With source code. So this is the source code for this sign-in page. As you can see, well, we're gonna be building the sign-in page from scratch, so you guys can really start off using Material UI library because in your React projects, because there are a lot of benefits for Material UI library comparing to CSS and pure CSS and HTML. So, for example, by using the Material UI library, you are going to get rid of pure CSS codes in your source code, and basically the styling of your components is going to be much easier. Alright, so no more speeches, let's dive right in the development. But before, I want you guys to like and subscribe to the channel, and as always, feel free to ask your questions in the comment section below. Thank you. Let's go ahead and start creating our sign-in page. So first thing we need to do is to actually create a React project, and you can do that by using this command, create React app, and then you can say, for example, /, which is going to create a React app in the current directory for you, or you can specify a folder name, like for example client, and this is going to make a folder of client for you and create a React app inside that. So I've already created a React app, and because it's gonna take a while to create one from scratch, but you can basically use this command to create one. As soon as you see a message called happy hacking on your terminal, it means that you are ready to go. You can go on and start changing your SRC folder in order to customize your application. Alright, so but one more thing you need to do is to install Material UI library as well, and the way you do this is going to be like this. You say npm and install add material UI /core. I think oops, I didn't see the screen while I was writing, so this is the way you do this. Okay, you can basically copy this command and install Material UI library. Okay, so as soon as you do these things, it's time to go on and basically start doing changes on our SRC folder. And what are these changes? First, as you can see here, my SRC folder is empty because there are lots of extra stuff that we don't need really in this application. This is going to be a simple application, so we don't need lots of that stuff. Basically, you need to remove your SRC folder first and then create another one, and in there we're gonna specify 2 new files. All right, first one is index.js and the next one is going to be app.js. all right, so stick with me in here. We need to start writing our codes in here, and so open up your VS Code and start coding with me. All right, so in here in the index.js file, I'm going to import 2 things. First one is going to be React from React, and after that I'm going to import React DOM from React DOM. All right, after that I'm going to use React DOM in order to render something. So I'm going to say React DOM.render, and in there I'm going to specify my app. Sorry about that. I'm going to specify my app, and after that I'm going to say document.getElementById, and I'm passing in the ID of root. All right, this is basically a introduction from our app of our app to our index.js. All right, so now let's go ahead and import this app that we just created. So I'm going to say import basically app from /app. All right, now what do we need to do in this app? Okay, this app is going to be the actual UI we're building. Okay, so in here what we're gonna do is to first, as always, import React from React, and in there we're gonna use a snippet called RFCE. Okay, this is going to make us a functional component for us, and you don't need to import this React manually. If you are using this snippet, it will automatically add it for you. So in here I have the functional component of app, and actually to use this snippet you're gonna need to install this extension on VS Code. This is totally free and it's a great extension. Okay, so make sure to use it. All right, so after that I'm going to use an H1 and to test out our application and to see if our app is ready to build this sign in page. I'm gonna run my app. First I'm gonna basically save these two files, and I'm gonna go on and say npm start. Okay, so it's going to start up our application on Google Chrome for me. And now, as soon as you see this hello world message, it means that our app works perfectly. Okay, so let's go on and let's decide where to start from. Okay, so this is going to be our application. As you can see here, we need to make this side and we need to make this side. Okay, so where do we need to start from? I'm gonna first implement my image. Okay, so to do that, before we do anything, we need to create our styles. Okay, so the way I do this is actually kind of like implementing CSS in JS, but it's a little bit different because we're gonna using this material UI library. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and create a styles class. So I'm going to say styles.js, and in there what we're gonna do, we're gonna import something from material UI library, and that something is going to be make styles. Okay, so this is going to be from @material UI/core/styles. Okay, and here is a typo mistake. All right, so make styles from this path, and in there I'm gonna say export default make styles, and in there I'm going to get something that called theme. It's a prop that material UI library actually it configures this automatically for us. We don't need to use basically another thing. We don't need to make it manually. We just have to use it. Okay, so now in there what I'm going to do is to return some stuff. Okay, and this stuff are going to be our basically styles. Our actual styles are going to be in this make styles functional component, as you can see here. So the first one is going to be root. We're going to now specify how our root is going to be. So I'm going to give it a margin, I'm going to give it a height of 100 VH. It means that our app is going to be full screen. So after that, I'm going to create another class called, another style called image, and in there I'm going to use something called background image, and okay, it's here. And basically I'm gonna pass in a URL. I don't have this URL copied, so I'm going to make it from scratch. This is going to be a URL, and it's going to say https source, if I'm not mistaken, .unsplash.com slash random. I think this is it. I'm not sure. We need to test it out in a moment. And after that, what I'm going to do is to use a background background repeat, and it's going to be basically no repeat. And the next thing we're going to be using is going to be background size, and it's going to be cover. Then after that, I have these property called background position, and it's going to be center. And now I think our image is ready to use. Okay, we need to implement it. Okay, so how do we actually make use of these make styles? Okay, to do that, I'm going to go to app.js and I'm going to import something called use styles, which is going to be our custom hook from styles.styles.js. Okay, now in here I'm going to create a actually variable called classes, and in there I'm going to call this use styles. Now if we do something like, for example, classes.root, the styles in the root is going to be applied on the component we're using this sentence in. Alright, so let's go ahead and make our components. Now in here, what I'm gonna do is to return a grid. Okay, so what's a grid? Basically, a grid is another Material UI component which adapts to a screen size and orientation and ensures consistency across our layouts. Alright, it's a very useful way to, for example, configuring columns and rows and stuff using Material UI library in our website. Alright, so to do that, to use a grid, you always want to have a grid inside a grid. Okay, so how do we do this? First, our main grid, our parent grid, is going to be of a type container, and I'm going to pass a class name to it, which is going to be from classes.root. So this is going to be our basically our main container. Okay, now we need to import it, so I'm going to say import grid from Material UI /core. Okay, so this is the way we are using grids, and in this container grid we're going to be building another grid which is going to be of a type item. Alright, so this time this is going to be of a type item. Alright, so now let's go ahead and give it some properties because we need them basically. So this grid is going to be contain our image. Alright, if you see this as a extra small device like a mobile, we don't want to show the image on an extra small device to the user. Alright, so imagine this is a mobile. Now, as you can see here, we don't have the image. Alright, so we don't have the image, and if I resize it and make it something like medium, you can see the image. Alright, so what we are going to do here is to say on extra small devices, I'm going to set false. Alright, so this is not going to show image to the user on extra small devices. Alright, the next property is going to be small devices on so basically what am I saying here is on small devices, go on and take 4 of 12 of the width. Alright, the total value is going to be 12, so 12 means the whole width of the page. Alright, and I hope you understand that. It's a little bit tricky. And on medium devices, I'm going to say take 7 from 12. Alright, and the class name is going to be simply the classes.image. Alright, now I think we're ready to show our image, But before that, I'm going to do something, and that's adding something called CSS baseline over here. Okay, so let's say first we're gonna import it. So CSS baseline over here. So what is a CSS baseline? Okay, now I want to explain this to you. This is a functional component which is coming from the Material UI library that does some really configurations, like for example removing the margins in all browsers, or it applies a default material background and this kind of stuff. So we don't need to worry about it. Okay, we just need to make use of it. Okay, I don't know what's the problem. Okay, the C is going to be capital. Now if I run my app, let's see what happens. This is getting compiled now. Okay, as you can see here, we have our image. Let's compare. See, we have our image. This is every time you refresh the page, this is going to show a random image. So this image is not going to be equal to the previous image. All right, as you can see here, this is going to get refresh. All right, we have random images out here. Okay. So now that you can see here, we don't have the image on extra small devices. Okay. So let's go ahead and implement the other steps. Okay. So the next step we want to do is to add basically this stuff to our image. We need to implement our right side of our basically web page. Okay, and we need to start off with this avatar over here. This is a this component is using something called avatar, which is another great component built in Material UI library. Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and create our sign in side, which we have to see the changes right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and create another grid of a type item. The axis is going to be 12, so we need to see the full width on extra small devices like this Google Chrome web page. You can see here on small devices it's going to take 8, and on medium devices it's going to take 5. Okay, after that what I'm going to do is going to give it a component prop and set it to a paper. Okay, basically capital P. So I'm going to import paper for now, then I will really explain what is this component. Okay, after that I'm going to give it an elevation of let's say 6, and then it's going to be square. Okay, this is not going to be self-closing tag because we need to put stuff in it. Okay, we need to actually wrap some stuff in this grid. Okay, alright, so after that I'm going to make a div which the class name is going to be from classes.paper. This time not capital P. We need to make this style. This is going to be right here, so I'm going to create it right now, but in a moment we will come back and apply things to this paper. Okay, so this is going to be our type paper, and in there what I'm going to do is to place something called avatar in here. Okay, so this is going to be avatar. What is an avatar? This is exactly this thing you can see here. Okay, this circle thing you can see here, which is going to have a background of a secondary color and basically a icon. Okay, so let's go ahead and make that. All right, so to do that, what I'm going to do is to first wrap a basically icon, this lock icon you saw in previous minutes, in here to it. Basically wrap that in this avatar component, and this is going to be lock outlined, if I'm not mistaken. We can check in a minute. Icon. All right. So I'm going to import it from @material UI slash icons. Sorry. So this is going to be like this from yeah, like this, and then I'm going to specify this lock outline. Okay, I think it's correct. And by the way, we need to give it a class name of classes.avatar. So we need to basically make this style as well. All right, I think we're ready to actually make our styles. So to do that, in our paper, first off, let's say what's a paper. Okay, the paper is basically like a really box, a white box, which we can't see here. But what you need to know is that all of these components are placed into a paper. Okay, this whitish background you can see behind these components is a paper. Okay, this is going to be very useful in material UI design. Okay, so this is a paper. And what does that mean when we say component is going to be equal to a paper? The component prop specifies the element type of our grid, okay, which by default is a div, but now we are going to change it to paper. As you can see here, we have changed it to paper. Okay, so now that we are familiar with paper and all this stuff, let's go ahead and basically create our styles. Okay, so what do we need to pass into this paper style? Okay, I'm going to give it a margin of theme dot spacing. Sorry, I don't look at the screen when I type. That's why I used to this typo mistakes. Okay, so yeah, I'm giving it a 8 and 4, and after that I'm using display. It's going to be equal to flex, and then I'm going to set flex direction to be equal to a column. These two lines are going to specify the way we are organizing our components, which it's a column, as you can see here. The items are top and bottom of each other. Okay, so this is going to be a column, and finally the line items is going to be equal to center. Okay, now for avatar, we're not going to have much, just a margin, which is going to be theme.spacing, and I'm passing in the value of 1, and after that I'm going to set a background color to it, which is going to be from theme.palette.secondary, which is going to be kind of pink, something between pink and red, .main. Alright, so with that said, let's go ahead and rerun our app. I'm going to use npm start again, and we need to see our changes. We need to exactly see this avatar over here. So let's see. Alright, as you can see here, this is exactly like what we need to make. Okay, alright, so after this after creation of this basically icon and stuff, let's go ahead and make our sign in text. Okay, so to do that, what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to use a typography below this avatar. Okay, so what's an typography? Let's first make it, and then we will discuss it. Okay, so a typography actually is kind of like a H1 or something. This is kind of look like them, but basically is a text which is coming from a from the material UI library. Okay, So whenever you want to write a text and print it to the user or show it to the user, you're gonna need to use the basically typography. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to import it from at material UI/core. So I'm not sure if I have to put a class name for it. At the time, I don't want to do this, but what I'm going to do is to say component is going to be h1, and it's going to have a variant of I think h5. It's going to be okay. So now in here, what I'm going to do is going to say sign in. Okay, now let's rerun our app, and as you can see here, we have the exact kind of text from the main template over here in our custom page, as you can see here. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is to implement this text fields. Okay, text field is another material UI component. So let's go ahead and first import it. So there is going to be a text field, and now we're gonna need to use it. Now where do we want to use it? Exactly in this div. And now we need to, because this is like a form, as you can see here, if you're familiar with HTML and stuff and front-end web developing, you know that we need to put our text fields like this into a form, because there's going to be a submit and we need some stuff from the form. So let's go ahead and create a form. Oops. Let's go ahead and create a form. Now in our form, first off, I have to specify a class name for my form, which we're going to make in a minute. It's going to be classes.form. Let's say form. Okay. And we need to pass the no validate prop to it. And in there, now this is where we need to use our text fields. Okay. So I'm going to use a text field, which is going to have a variant of outline. Then I'm going to give it a margin of normal. After that, we're going to say this is required to fill. Then I'm going to give it the full width prop, which is going to take the full width of the screen. As you can see here, we haven't implemented yet. After that, what we're going to do is to pass it a ID, which is going to have our email. The label is going to be email address. After that, I'm going to give it a name of email as well. Autocomplete is going to be email as well. And in there, after that, what I'm going to do is to say autofocus. Okay, our text field is ready to use. Let's run our app and see the result. Okay, as you can see here, this is good, but it's not taking the full width. I don't know why. First, let's create all of our stuff, and then we will start debugging it. Okay, so let's go ahead and create another text field. I'm basically gonna copy this one. Everything is going to be same, so I'm copying this one. Now, what do we need to change here? The ID is not going to be email, but it's going to be password. This is going to be password as well. Password, and finally again password. Okay, let's rerun our app. Now that we have these two, we are good to go, but before we need to basically debug it. Okay, what's the problem here? Oops, another typo. This is going to be a form. Alright, so now if I rerun our app, again nothing happened. Why is that? Alright, the problem is that we need to do something like this. W is going to be camel case. Okay, I think now we're good to go. Alright, so as you can see here, we have all of our emails, the autocomplete, and everything. Okay, let's see, let's compare. It's okay, it's totally okay. The next thing we need to do is to create this checkbox over here. Now, one thing that matters to note is that we can't have something called label on checkboxes, all right? And we need to use a trick to pass this remember me text to our checkbox, and that's how we do this. In our form, inside our form, basically, what we're going to do is to basically use something called form control label. All right, and what does it do? Basically, what the form control label does is that let us create a label for our checkbox. Okay, so now we want to create a checkbox over here, and that's how we do this. I think like this. Yeah, this is a checkbox from Material UI. The value is going to be let's say remember, and the color is going to be primary. Let's say primary. All right, I think now this is okay, this is good. Now we need to import these two together. All right, so this is going to be checkbox. Now in here, we need to do something. All right, first let's see if it works. All right, there is a problem, and what's the problem? I think we need to pass it as a control. First, all right, let's first comment out these two. All right, so we have our checkbox. So, and the color is going to be primary. It's okay, it's perfect. But one thing we need to do is to pass this checkbox as a control prop to this form control label. All right, that's how we do this actually. The control is going to be this checkbox. All right, so I'm going to select it and put it here. Now let's check. All right, again there is a problem. Now what's the problem? I think we might have another typo. So let's see. I can't see a typo. So we have the control prop. All right, let's pass a label to this and say, for example, ooh, all right, that's why. A really newbie problem, a newbie mistake. Okay, now let's go ahead, and this is okay. All right, so our form is completed till here, and now we need to make our button. All right, so the next thing we need to implement is our button. But before that, let's go ahead and check our styles. We need to create our form style. In our inside our form style, what do we need to create? All right, so in our form we need to say the width is going to be 100%, and after that I'm going to give it a margin top of let's say theme.spacing, which is going to be kind of like the 1. All right, so now let's go ahead and check that out. All right, it's going to say margin top. Oops. All right, now, okay, now it's better, I think. All right, so the next thing we're going to implement is the submit button. Okay, sign in button, which is going to be of a type submit. It's going to submit our form. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. To do that, below our form control label, what I'm going to do is to basically create a button which is going to be again from Material UI library. Okay, in our button I'm going to say sign in, and then I'm going to pass in some props to our button. The first one is going to be exactly type, which is going to be submit. After that, I'm going to say take the full width. Then what I'm going to do is to say variant is going to be contained. And finally, I'm going to give it a class name, which is going to be from classes dot let's say submit. Alright, and now I need to import it. Let's import it. Now we're good to go. Now let's go ahead and rerun our app. This is our sign in. So there is a problem which now we're gonna have to fix. Okay, let's go ahead and create our submit class. All right, so we're gonna need to create our submit, and in there, what am I going to do? I'm going to say margin is going to be theme dot spacing, and in there I'm going to pass these values 3, 0, and 2. Alright, so this is our comma. Okay, it's better, but there is a problem. Let's see what is the problem here. Alright, the problem is, again, this is going to be full width. Now it's okay. Alright, it's totally okay. Alright, so one last thing we need to do with this button is going to be color, which is going to be primary. Oops. Alright, so if I rerun our app, this is perfect, and let's go ahead and create our copyright element and this stuff over here. Okay, now after this, what we are going to do is to create another grid, which we need to implement a raw over here. Okay, and creation a grid is a great way in Material UI library to do this. Okay, so I'm going to implement a grid of a type container, of a type container, and in there I'm going to specify our basically links. Okay, so the first one is going to be of a type item, and in our item I'm going to say basically what I'm going to do here is to put a link. Link is another object and component from Material UI library, which we're going to import, and in there I'm going to use something called href, and this is going to be, this is kind of like a link. Okay, all right, so this is href, and the variant is going to be body 2. Okay, now let's import link. Let's import it over here, and now let's go ahead and basically in that link I'm going to say forget password. Alright, and below this what I'm going to do is to copy and paste this. I'm going to get rid of this excess for the second grid, and what I'm going to do is to say basically don't have an account, sign up. Alright, let's rerun our app. As you can see here, we have this stuff perfectly. it's totally okay. And the one last thing we need to implement is this text over here. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so to do that, I'm going to create another class which is going to be copyright. Stands for our copyright section over here. So now what I'm going to do over here is to create another use RFCE and create another functional component called copyright, and in there I'm going to have a typography which I'm going to import from material UI. By the way, we need to import link as well. So I'm going to import it right now. All right, so let's go ahead. In the typography, we have variant of H2. We have color of text secondary. All right, we have align center. Now after that, in our typography, we're gonna have to say basically copyright. Okay, I think it's okay. All right, so we need to create a link inside our typography. Okay, and the way we do this is like this. The color is going to be inherit, and the href is going to be our source website, which is going to be materialui.com. In there, I'm going to specify your website over here. Let's say your website, and after that link, what I'm going to do is to do something like this. I'm going to give it a space. Let's wrap it like this. Okay, I'm going to give it a space, and then what we're going to do is to create a new date, and in there what I'm going to do is to get full year. Okay, and then we're passing it a dot. All right, so I think it's ready to use, so I'm going to import it in my app. So I'm going to import copyright from copyright. Now we need to use it like so. So I think you need to use it here. Oops. All right, let's rerun our app. Oh, why is that? I think there is a problem. Let's put it inside our form. Okay, it's the same. All right, so what we're gonna do, I think there is a problem in our copyright section. All right, okay, I'm using H2. We need to use body 2. All right, so it's okay, and we need to basically give it a space. All right, but this is not going to give us the full year. Why is that? Because we're not calling it, so we need to call it like so, and this is it. All right, so let's put it in a box over here, and I think it's better, and the empty is going to be 5. All right, I'm going to wrap it in a box like this, and now we need to import box. Now if I rerun our app, see, this is perfectly okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and compare our websites. Alright, as you can see here, these are working properly. They are exactly the same. And the next thing I'm gonna do in the next video is going to be sign up. I think I might go for this page. We're gonna make this page, and actually my program is to make a sign in web page, and basically learn everything about authentication using sign up and sign in, and we will set up a backend and all this stuff. We will use Google ID, Google authentication, and this stuff. So these are for next sessions. Basically, I'm going for this playlist. I think I might do this possibly, but this is our sign in page. I hope you guys like it. If you liked it, like this video, subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe, and finally, feel free to ask your questions in the comment section below. Thank you. See you soon.